Hi, this is Jim from NJ Cigar and Whiskey. Today we are reviewing the Island Jim San Andreas, and we're drinking Writer's Tears Copper Pot Still. Island Jim is a 6x52 torpedo with an Ecuadorian Connecticut and San Andreas wrapper and Honduras fillers. Writer's Tears is a copper pot Irish whiskey made in Carlow, Ireland. Today we're going to talk about Writer's Tears, and Writer's Tears is a copper pot still whiskey, which is a blend of a single malt Irish whiskey and a single pot still Irish whiskey. And if you remember from our last video, a single pot still Irish whiskey is whiskey that's blended from a little bit of malted barley and some unmalted barley. It's usually a 70-30% ratio. Well, this is a blend of single malt and single pot still. And on the nose, before I light the cigar, I get a lot of apple and honey and vanilla. A lot of vanilla. It's like almost like apple pie. On the taste, it's got a little bit of, it's a little spicy, like ginger spice. Then you get ginger, that classic Irish bready, sort of like a biscuit, shortbread cookie kind of taste. Very classic Irish. Again, it's a blend of single malt and single pot still. And I like that peppery hit that you get in the beginning. So that's Writer's Tears, and Writer's Tears without a cigar. Again, today we are smoking the Island Jim San Andreas. Interesting cigar. And the Island Jim is actually a real person. If you don't know, he's a cigar shop owner in Pittsburgh who liked to do his own blends. And he came up with this number. And actually the original Island Jim, which is I believe an Ecuador Sumatra wrapper. This is a San Andreas wrapper, so it's a little bit darker. I'm going to toast this up. It's got a shagged foot here. It means you don't necessarily have to toast it. This has been in my humidor for about 6 or 7 months, and I'll tell you, I've been saving it for a day like today where I could do a good review on it. And off the light, sweet, earthy, a little bit of baker's chocolate, great smoke output, as you can see. So we're going to get into this. We're going to get into our whiskey a little bit. We're going to see how they pair. We'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more with you on NJ Cigar and Whiskey. Alright, we're in the first third here, and I don't know if you can see the burn, but it's a little bit wonky. Doesn't look like it needs any touch up, but the smoke output, which is probably the biggest thing for me, smoke and flavor, right? The smoke output is very generous. Look at this. And I have to tell you a little story. Island Jim was one of those cigar moment, or cigar life changers for me. I smoked it on the Battleship, New Jersey. There was a beer fest there, they had a cigar tent, and I smoked a Island Jim. It was the original Island Jim, and the flavor just knocked me out. I mean, it was stuff I'd never really tasted in a cigar before. This is the San Andreas version, which means it's an Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper thrown over or underneath a San Andreas wrapper. It's the binder is, I'm trying to think. The binder and filler are Honduran, if I remember right. The hard part about Island Jim is when you're talking about the binder and the filler, they don't like to give out too much because they like to keep it a little bit of a secret because it's such an outstanding flavor. The two people responsible for the Island Jim is Oscar Valadares. You know him, Leaf by Oscar, and Island Jim is Jim Robinson. He's a cigar shop owner in Pittsburgh. Like I said, he actually designed the first Island Jim, and then Oscar, Leaf by Oscar, and Jim Robinson, put their heads together, and they came up with a production line. It was the Island Jim #2, and this is the Island Jim San Andreas. So it's the third generation of the Island Jims. The flavors I get. On the San Andreas, it's a little drier. It's typical San Andreas where sometimes it takes the spit out of your mouth. And it's cocoa, earth, sweet earth, and on the retro hail, a little bit more like that Baker's cocoa. Delicious cigar. Totally enjoy it. So that is the first third. You can see the ash is holding on real well. We'll come back with when we get a little further into the cigar. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Writer's Tears and Welsh Distillery. Hello, we're still going. We're about halfway through the Island Jim. Flavors remain the same. The smoke output's the same. The burn isn't razor sharp, but isn't bad. Haven't had to correct it. So we'll continue on, but I did want to talk about Welsh Distillery. When we went away, I think I called it Welsh Distillery. Didn't mean to. It was Welsh Distillery. It's Bernard and Rosemary Walsh's family distillery. They opened it in 1999 in Ireland, and they opened it with the idea of reviving Irish whiskey. So in a couple of my previous videos, if you know anything about Irish whiskey, you know that Irish whiskey for the longest time, up until about the mid-1800s, Irish whiskey was the whiskey in the world. When you wanted a good whiskey, you went and bought a Dublin whiskey, which was probably single pot still. And so what Bernard and Rosemary Walsh wanted to do was recreate recipes from Irish whiskey in the 1800s. Walsh Distillery's doing that. There's another interesting distillery, Napoleon Castle, is doing the same thing. Walsh Distillery has been coming out with it slowly but surely over their time here, coming out with different blends and different whiskeys. Writer's Tears, they actually came up with this single malt, single pot still blend in 2009, and for the price, I mean the price tag here in New Jersey at my local liquor store is about $35 to $39 a bottle. When you're talking about single pot still like Redbreast or Green Spot, you're talking about $60 a bottle, and to be honest, it's great value for what you get. Now, if you haven't noticed, I am the whiskey nerd. We're missing Nick today. Hopefully she'll be in our next video, because what Nick does is she balances out my whiskey and cigar nerdness with, hey, let's just have a drink. So I'm hoping that she'll be back. The Island Jim, again, I feel like the combination of the Island Jim with the Writer's Tears being a little bit smooth and a little bit spicy, the Island Jim not having much of a spice kick, being so sweet. It really, I think for me, they really complement each other really well. I've been really looking forward to doing this video. My son Tim, who's my cameraman today, he tells me I'm supposed to put one out once every week. This week I was a little under the weather, and so really didn't get to it till today. So between work and being a little under the weather on Friday, feeling better today, thankfully. So we will check back in when this thing gets down to about the last third, or maybe to the band point. Okay, we're gonna take the wrapper off now, and the band really. And the band came off so easy. I like it when it happens that way. Here's the band. It's a beautiful band. You can see that. I actually have a dartboard with bands. I'll try and show a picture of it in this video. Dartboard is a board my dad, this is my dad's dartboard. He made the backer for it. So I took the backer and I decorated it with cigar bands, and one of the cigar bands that's prominent in the dart holder is an Island Jim. Ash just fell off in one huge chunk. Great construction on this thing. The burn is pretty even. It's evened itself out at this point. Flavors have remained pretty consistent. Slight pepper, but I'm not sure if that's the whiskey interacting with the cigar. But there's nothing bad to say here. I want to give a few shout outs while we're sitting here enjoying this cigar on this lovely afternoon. I want to shout out to LeeMac 912 for giving me some pointers. I am absolutely doing the assignment, LeeMac. It's just that I was a little bit under the weather. I watched about 5 or 6 videos with the H. Upman. I'm going to watch another couple and then I'll give you my rankings. I want to shout out to Rich Parker. I was taking a picture and responding to one of your Facebook posts, and I knocked the ash off the first time. So really, the ash has only fallen off in 2 huge chunks. Again, great construction on this cigar. Smoke output is great, and there's not much else I can say about the whiskey except it is absolutely delicious on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. I hope you guys are enjoying it. We'll come back for the wrap up. Well, guys, this is the ash holding on. We're about to wrap up this cigar. I gotta go make dinner. The cigar, it's getting a little more earthy, a little less cocoa, but it's still sweet, and a little bit of nutmeg right now in the taste profile. Nutmeg a little bit on the retrohale. The whiskey, it's funny, the cigar, that chocolate in the cigar, or the little bit of cocoa and that nutmeg, it really brings out the shortbread cookie and the honey flavors that's in the Writer's Tears. So highly recommend the pairing if you get a chance. Pick up Writer's Tears if you get a chance, because it is delicious. This Island Jim San Andreas I picked up locally here at Lit Cigar Lounge, but you can find it at many online cigar retailers. Shout out to my Lit Cigar Lounge friends, particularly a shout out to Andy, shout out to John Monteith, shout out to Rebecca. We all miss you guys. Nikki and I both miss hanging out at the lounge. Can't wait till we can get back. But guys, believe it or not, this social distancing thing, I can tell you, is working. So please stay home. Please stay safe. If there is a cigar you'd like me to review, please leave a comment and tell me what cigar or whiskey you'd like me to do next. We're traveling through our Irish whiskeys, but next we're going to be moving on to our scotches. Oban, Dalwhinnie, Cardew, they were all on the list. But we got to get through Green Spot and Redbreast next. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Leave a comment, because I'd love to hear from you guys. And thank you for watching. Thank you for spending an afternoon with me. And Salancha.